We're going to actually start with places you've lived.
Okay.
So obviously you grew up in Little Rock, as you just said.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of like grew up again in DC.
Yeah. Okay.
And then now you're living and raising humans, so they're growing up in New York.
Yeah.
So DC, Little Rock, New York. Bench, start, cut. Welcome to A Touch More Live here at the Business of Women's Sports Summit at Chelsea Factory. It has been an amazing day. It really has. You missed most of it. You got to sleep in today.
How's everybody doing?
I had the 7 a.m. wake-up call. You did not.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
I peeled an eye open. I was like, you look great, babe.
And I was like, how does this jacket or another jacket? Okay, good night, bye.
Turn the closet light off.
But we really are excited to be here to talk about all things women's sports.
I'm really excited. We have Chelsea Clinton here with us today. We're going to be, give it up for Chelsea. We're going to be talking all about, obviously, women's sports and investment, but really how women's sports and athletes sort of intersect with leadership and how she's been inspired by that. So I'm really excited to talk to her about that. But before we welcome her in, we're going to do a little bit of the top of the show, like we always do. I know everybody here is an avid listener, so Obviously. This will be no surprise. We always start the top of the show with the check-in. So welcome to the check-in. Last week, we saw the WNBA draft, 2025 WNBA draft. Obviously, Paige Buckets going first.
By the way, she says buckets because she gets a little nervous when she gets to Beckers. It's just Beckers.
But it's like, is it Buchers? Is it Beckers? It's just also Paige Buckets as a last name is
it's a vibe.
redonks. It was on ESPN, delivered the second highest viewed WNBA draft ever, averaging 1.25 million viewers. The W season kicks off in a couple of weeks. Everybody knows May 16th is the opening weekend. I don't know where we'll be. Are we going to the opening game? Yeah, we are. Sue, I'm going to ask you to get your little crystal ball out again. You, on one of our podcasts, accurately predicted, basically within a few 100,000 viewers, what viewership success would look like for the tournament, NCAA tournament for everybody, would look like. And I want those predictions right now for the W season. Viewership numbers, at least for opening weekend. What do you think those will be and why, and where should I put my money?
Well, first of all, shout out to Ryan Wilco, who I actually...
Love her.
Yeah. Who I actually was chatting with prior to that prediction about a month ago, where we were talking about the championship game, because obviously last year's NCAA Final Four championship game smashed all the records. So he did help with that. I do want to give a quick shout.
Both of you are over the ball,
Yeah, I do want to give over his bald head. I do want to give a quick shout.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I think about opening weekend, I looked up some numbers, and my guess is, well, first of all, the season starts the 16th. There's a great lineup of games, but 17th, that really marks it, right? Those are the TV games. We got ABC, ESPN. We've got the Liberty getting their rings. So we've got some good matchups. All right, first is the Fever versus the Chicago Sky. Wonder why they did that. We have not seen Caitlin Clark play in a long time, okay? And it's against Angel Reese. So my guess there is we're going to see 3+ million, which I'm sure will smash some record.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
We got two of them right here.
And then I think I'm going to give the Aces Liberty a go. Like I said, ring night. Aces Liberty are a little bit of a rivalry now, which I kind of like. It's budding. Jewel Lloyd is now on the Aces.
Boo. Just kidding, Joel. We love you.
Yeah, we do love Joel. That one I think will be more in the 1.5, maybe 2 would be great range. So those are my guesses. But I do think this whole season, similar to last season, similar to the season before that, and the season before that, viewing, viewership, attendance, merch, it's all going to get smashed. I think it's all going to get smashed. And that's my bigger prediction.
Yeah, it's hard to really make predictions about it because everything's just going through the roof. And
I also think there's going to be between 3 to 5.
What was the God?
Well, I said 4 and then I want to go 5
stressful.
and then I'm maybe it's just 3. I think there's going to be 4 legit title contenders. So another prediction is just throughout the course of the season, that number 1 spot in the rankings, it's just going to be oscillating like crazy. It's going to be all over the place.
Okay, and that's stressful for you.
Very stressful. God. Very stressful. Yeah. But speaking of higher viewership and a rise in popularity, that also equates to a rise in impact. And we all know about the impact and the importance that female athletes have on our society, but not all of us wrote many a book on this topic. So please join us in welcoming New York Times bestselling author and vice chair of the Clinton Foundation, Chelsea Clinton. Bow, 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 bow.
Welcome, welcome. Support for A Touch More comes from Degree. When you're bringing your A game all day, you need odor control that can keep up with you. Well, the new Degree Whole Body Deodorant Spray can do just that. It can keep you smelling and feeling great all day with 72-hour odor protection for your pits, chest, thighs, and more. It's designed to leave no residue after spraying, just a light, refreshing smell that gives you the confidence you need to overcome your limits. Buy the new Degree Whole Body Deo for under $10 at Walmart now. Okay, welcome.
Thanks, guys.
How are you?
I'm many things.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah, that's my answer these days. My children are great. They just give me so much joy with their curiosity and their mischief. And I feel so blessed every day to be their mom. And I'm totally distraught about the world. And then everything else like falls between those two ends of the spectrum. So
sounds like us.
I'm many things. Yeah.
It's 70 in New York and you have a summer dress on.
I have on a summer dress.
Yeah.
I know that it was like 30 degrees last week.
Yeah.
So at least like last week when I started to have allergies, it felt really unfair because like, why am I having allergies and it's 33 degrees outside? Like now it's like 76 degrees outside. I'm like, okay, like I'll take the sniffles and the watery eyes for this.
Yeah. I'm new to New York and I was really ready for that cold to go away. I was like, this is a lot. Yeah. And it's just like every day is a checklist of things you have to think about to go outside. Mostly the feels like temperature. Exactly. For
Megan's gotten real big on the feels
like. Good. I know. You can't look at the headline.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I know. Wind chill's a thing.
I'm like 40. Okay, we're cool. Absolutely not. I live on the west side. Nope. It's 26. Okay. We're not here to talk about the weather. Totally. There's so much happening in this moment of women's sports. You have been a fan, an advocate, an investor for such a long time. You wrote She Persisted, a bunch of children's sports books. Those were released first in 2020. You were part of the investment group in the Washington Spirit. What would you say to people maybe who are like looking for the perfect moment or the perfect scenario or the perfect team to get involved in women's sports, even just to become a fan, but definitely more in the kind of like putting your money where your mouth is?
You know, Megan, I used to candidly like chafe a little bit when people would say, well, like now that I have a daughter, and I'd be like, well, like, shouldn't you just like do the right thing? Like, support women's rights, support our right to choose, invest in women founders, like be as like vehement a fan for women's sports as for male sports. But I actually now think like whatever brings you into this conversation, like I'm grateful that you're here. And so whether that is, you know, having a daughter or having a son and wanting your son to grow up like respecting women, understanding how to have a healthy relationship with the women in their lives, whether it's you recognize like the market opportunity. I mean, if like Sue's prediction is right, like if you're an investor, how could you not want to be like part of like this rocket ship that just continues to kind of parabolically accelerate? If you're an author and we look at like different book markets, both for children and for adults, you know, books about our sports figures, both iconic and not as well known, continue to generally outsell other categories. So kind of whatever it is that you care most about, like whether you're, you know, a parent or a fan or an investor or an author, like this is where you should be. And so welcome. Like I'm happy we're all here.
I've been thinking a lot recently with our backslide on rights and democracy and just the chaos that is our current governmental state in the U.S. and thinking a lot in juxtaposition to the rise of women's sports and really kind of back to, I would say, 18, 19, 20, and certainly seeing just a meteoric rise. What do you make of that juxtaposition? To me, it feels like it totally makes sense, and then also it's just crazy because we're rolling back Roe v. Wade, and just in general, there's just kind of a vibe of a lack of progressivism. What do you make of those two things happening at the same time?
Well, admittedly, like when you first started to ask your question, I thought you were like maybe going to what seems to be like the most obsessive moment about like trans women and trans girls in sports. And I just really want to keep asking the people who are so opposed to trans women and trans girls in sports, are you then further supporting Title IX? Like, are you investing in women's sports teams? Like, what are you doing to help protect all the girls and women in your lives so that we have healthcare, so that we have rights, right? So that we have agency, so that then we can like be on the sports field to be as successful as like the two extraordinary women to my right, or as non-successful as I was, but I still had a really good time. But I think it's a broader, kind of extrapolation from a conversation that we've actually had before around like athletes like being told to stay in your lane, right? It's like what is an acceptable form of femininity? Like what is an acceptable way to be a girl or to be a woman for right now, the people who very much have power and are looking to kind of render that power and express that power on, I think, really constricting and constraining like what they believe it should be to be a girl or a woman in this country. And so I think that for the folks who hold positions that to us may seem quite contradictory, philosophically, ethically, logically, I think to them it feels quite coherent because they have a heuristic of like what they think we should look like and how we should choose to express ourselves and how we should spend our time and what we should have agency over and what we shouldn't have agency over. And so while they may like dress their kids in like red, white, and blue to like, cheer for both of you, they don't think it's incongruous to restrict our rights to make the healthcare choices that we think are right for ourselves, or restrict how someone may feel so confident in kind of what their identity may be. So I think we find it inconsistent, but I don't think, to be fair, the people who hold different views would say the same.
Yeah, because it's something that we have, it's like almost a struggle to wrap your head around how women's sports, especially as you were saying in the last 5, 6, 7 years, but always, has been super vocal on a lot of different issues, has really represented these issues, and then to have the government, like you said, be rolling it back, but it's continuing to rise. We actually had this conversation recently and somebody brought up just the capitalism of it all. Like, oh, business is good, so people are gonna get involved because of business. And that was, I don't know, it's like I love it because it means women's sports is kabooming, but at the same time, I'm like, it feels icky a little bit. But to your point earlier, I mean, welcome. At least you're here. I'll take your money, I guess.
At least you're here. At least you're here.
Yeah, I've always found that in sports, especially when I played, obviously, that I could use sports to talk about the things that I care about and promote the things that I care about, which is really progressive ideals. You've done that also. Can you talk about the role of how you see women's sports? Like, I don't know if it's its responsibility, it's just kind of the thing that we always do in promoting, whether it's just like confidence in girls or like the actual protection of girls and women in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's so many different ways, Megan, to answer that question. There's sort of like the data wonky, nerdy way to answer it, and that we have so much research of how important it is, particularly for girls as we kind of grow from elementary to middle school to high school, to still be active. That kind of being active is really good for our social emotional health and well-being. It's important for us to have opportunities to engage in team sports, because then we're out of a classroom, we're out of a social situation. We're often kind of, there might be a particular set of feelings, but then you're quite literally on a different kind of playing field, and you're getting to know your classmates, but also yourself kind of in different and hopefully kind of productive and healthy ways. And so I think that's one way to answer the question. Like, we just know so much more now than we knew, like, when I was a kid, about how important sport is, particularly for girls, not only to help kind of with academic success as it is for girls and boys, but also to really help with kind of confidence and emotional regulation, and just really helping us develop a holistic kind of healthy sense of self. And so I think that's really important. And I don't think we talk enough about the role that public schools really should be playing, like, in this broader equation. And then I think there's very much kind of where you started the question about yourself and how you've used your own platform. And I think just because you're a wildly successful athlete, it shouldn't mean you feel pressure to speak out if you don't want to. But I think that if you do have a platform and you feel kind of fiercely about something, I would hope you would speak out, particularly if it relates, to being a woman and the invariably different pressures that come for being a woman in the public eye, for being a successful woman, for navigating the structural inequities that exist in women's sports, even when our women athletes do much better than our men on global stages. And I think that's all important too. So whether we're talking about kind of the health and well-being of our youngest, or kind of really kind of listening to people who we respect in one arena as they kind of talk about what it means to be an American citizen or just a human being, I think that all has real power.
Support for A Touch More comes from Degree. Our bodies can do incredible things. Running, lifting, doing inversions, holding long and difficult poses. It can feel great to push yourself. But another thing your body can do, especially after doing all that, is start to smell. While BO is a reminder of all your hard work, it's nice to be able to keep the aromas at bay. Luckily, the Degree Whole Body Deodorant Spray is designed to help you smell pleasant throughout your busy day. It offers odor protection for all those in-between places that tend to hold odor the most, like your pits, chest, thighs, and more. It provides 72-hour odor control, and it's dermatologist tested and free of aluminum. It's designed to leave less residue and dries quickly after spraying, with a light and refreshing feeling on the skin. Whether you're hitting the gym, running errands, or just going about your day, Degree Whole Body Deodorant Spray can keep you feeling fresh everywhere. Buy the new Degree Whole Body Deo for under $10 at Walmart now. Okay, so Chelsea, we met in 2019. You had just, your book, Gutsy Women, that you wrote with your mom, Hillary Rodham Clinton, had just come out. We did a little panel thing. But I do have to tell you, we kind of, sort of, maybe kind of met before that. Oh. Yeah, I got recruited by Stanford. Oh. So you were a freshman because you skipped a grade, even though we're both born in 1980. You were already in college. And I was on campus, and they love to do this on a Stanford visit. They drive you around in a golf cart.
It's true.
True story. I felt very important.
True story.
And we were like bopping around on this golf cart, and you were like walking around, and someone was like, "Oh, there's Chelsea Clinton." I was like, "Cool." I was like, "This place is pretty cool."
But you didn't come.
No, I didn't. The golf cart didn't get me.
Well, also, my freshman year, which would have been the year you were touring, not to now go back to the weather, but it was an El Nino year and it rained.
Yeah.
Like the whole time. So I think Stanford was having a hard time that year. They're like, we're normally sunny, just not right now, or
so
tomorrow,
funny.
or next month.
I remember that because
Yeah.
I didn't know what El Nino was. And so they had to like tell me about it. I was like, what is this place? El Nino, how does this?
And we could have been friends.
Do you want to know another thing that happened on that campus that day? I was being hosted by another player, and I was like, is today bike day? I'd never seen so many bikes in my life. What is going on there with the bikes?
California girl.
I know. And my bike got stolen my freshman year. I know. My like aquamarine Schwinn bike that I'd had forever. I know. And it was locked and everything, and it was stolen. And then I remember also like the upperclassmen tried to spin it as like, this too is a rite of passage. I was like, I don't want this rite of passage. Like, I just want my bike back.
Yeah, Stanford was a great visit though. I got taken to a class because they take you to a class, give you a taste. And I think it was Fred Savage. Oh yeah. Yeah, he was in the class like, oh, that's Fred Savage. He didn't get me either. He didn't get me there either though.
Did you also walk by like Carrie Strug? Were they also showing you like?
I was getting Celebrity Road.
Yeah, you must have really wanted to go to UConn because Stanford's like exceptionally better in like all ways. It's more beautiful.
Megan, I knew I liked you.
Cynical
Yeah.
That
area.
national championship title count.
Yeah, I know.
Kinda gotcha.
It would have been higher if you were there.
Yeah, maybe. But back to 2019 when we did meet. As I said, you had just written The Gutsy Women, and it's now been 6 years. For those that don't know, Gutsy Women was basically a series of essays that you had put together with your mom on gutsy women across all disciplines, just people I feel like that really spoke to you, their stories, the impact. So I'm actually curious, 6 years later, who would you add?
Oh, wow. Who would I add? I certainly, I think I would have to add Kamala Harris, regardless of how you feel about her. I think she has more than demonstrated gutsiness. I'll start in the political and then move beyond that. I think people forgot that there was a right-wing effort to kidnap Governor Whitmer, the governor of Michigan. And I think the way that she navigated that, while not kind of demonizing anyone, but also kind of being very clear that the people who threatened her and threatened the democratic process in her state needed to be held to account and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And I think that was not easy to do, particularly at the time in which she stood up to do it. I certainly would add, I think all of our public health professionals who've been so, in my opinion, like horrifically denigrated and demonized, even though they've given kind of their brilliance and their optimism and their hearts and their time into kind of the public service of trying to help keep all of us kind of healthier, whether the people at the NIH or the CDC or the FDA, so many of whom we don't know their names, but we should. And particularly because today it's Earth Day. Like, I'm thinking a lot about all of the climate scientists who similarly have kind of endured, I think, such politically motivated, unscientific, kind of ad hominem attacks. And as is always true, at least as I have found, those attacks are particularly kind of scurrilous and barbed against our women researchers and scientists and practitioners. And so I think those are the people I'd add. Yeah.
And us, right?
Oh, the two of, I should have started with the two of you, of course. I'm sorry. Sorry. Number one and number two. Or if you want to be together, one.
I'll be one.
Yeah.
Just kidding. So another book that Megan mentioned this earlier, you have a series of books, She Persisted. One of them focuses on American Olympians, which is amazing. Diana Taurasi, Simone Biles, to name a few. So I'm curious, as you were learning about these Olympians, was there anything like a common thread between all of them that kind of kept showing up?
Tony, I grew up watching the Olympics. I watch more, my family makes fun of me, I watch more television like during the Olympics than anything else. Like all of a sudden I have very intense feelings about things like curling or like the javelin, right? I'll be like, why are the Slovakians so good at this sport? And my husband's like, what are you talking about? But it's when I just feel like so... I don't have an ounce of cynicism. Like, I just want to be enthralled and inspired. And I also want to share that sense of like awesomeness now with my kids. Cause I remember watching like Mary Lou Retton when I was a really little kid. I remember, literally remember where I was sitting and like the old fashioned television that we had in like 1988, like watching on prime time, like FloJo, like obliterate the world records, which he still holds. So I have all these moments that were so meaningful to me as a kid and meaningful that I shared with my parents and my grandparents, and then listening to them talk about the Olympics, and my grandmother remembering when she watched like Wilma Rudolph, which was one of the, either the first or the second televised Olympics. And so it is a meaningful experience to me. And when I had the chance to expand the She Persisted series into sports, I spoke to some of, most of the living athletes, and then some of them thankfully resonated so much with the young readers, we were able to turn them into chapter books, which is what happened with Diana Taurasi and others. And I don't mean this to sound like I'm belaboring it or self-congratulating, but it really did feel like just the sheer as the two of you, I'm sure could more than attest and be testament to, like, someone had told them no at some point, and they're like, no to the no. Like, my no cancels your no. Like, I'm turning that into a yes. Like, the sense of not only like grit and perseverance, but the need to prove something, both often to themselves and candidly to someone else. Not that I have any resonance with that at all.
I was just going to say, it sounds like that feels familiar to you in some ways, which actually leads to another question. What did you learn, if anything?
What I learned, I'm a very like optimistic person, because I think it is a healthier place to live. Like, even today, when I am so distraught about so much, like the purposeful chaos, the hollowing out of our institutions, the efforts to purposefully degrade our democracy to turn us into kleptocracy, like the willful celebration of incompetence. I worry about all of that. But I also believe that we can do something about it. And I believe that not because I'm like blithely naive, but because I believe if we don't believe that, like, the forces of darkness subsume everything that I think is important. And so the only real chance I think we have is to have like our optimism turn into action. And it's, I think, just a healthier like place to be, to believe that I can find someone to support, or I can connect someone to someone else, that kind of where the sum is greater than the whole of the parts, or I can show up in some way, or I can think about a problem in a different manner. And so I start with that because I spend a lot of my time like thinking about like the big world that we're all in, and then of course like obsessively worrying about my three small humans, and a little bit my husband and my dog, but like really my three small humans. And I think that what I don't know if I learned to, but kind of just was continually reminded of, is that yes, like sustained effort can make a difference, right? Because if like these athletes didn't believe that, like they would have never reached like the first threshold of success, much less, particularly someone like Diana Taurasi, who could have quit a very long time ago, but still was like, no, there's more to do. I have more to do. I have more to give. I have more to prove to myself and to the world, kind of for what can be possible. And that feels deeply applicable and directly inspiring to me as I think about this moment that we're living in.
Oh, I love that. We usually talk about like marginal gains, which in our world, it's like maybe it's the day you don't feel like working out, right? You should do the 2-hour workout, but you maybe only have 30 minutes, but that 30 minutes has meaning, right? So I'm adding sustained effort to that little spiel that I'm gonna give it.
Yeah, I think
love
there's
that.
something in sports also. I mean, this is where the greatest comebacks or these like exceptional moments happen, where even as an athlete, like when you're out there, you're like, I know this is really far-fetched that we're gonna win this game. We're either down a lot, or it's a tough moment, or you're outmatched. But like you have to give the effort. Otherwise, I mean, what's the point of even going out there? So that I feel like that really resonates. Like anything is better than nothing. And like that sort of like insane optimism is required to keep going. Otherwise, it's just like, why are we even here at all? Let's pack it in.
Okay, so you once said that your children know Megan as the face of soccer, not women's soccer.
That's true.
Soccer, which I mean, I love. How do you not love that? And we talk a lot about just how like ingrained the bias for men's sports is in society. Like even as simple as it's the NCAA tournament and then the women's NCAA tournament, like these small ways. So I'm curious, given that you have 3 humans that you are raising, how do you break those habits as you're raising these young sports fans?
I mean, look, I think that we're incredibly lucky to live in New York City, right? And incredibly privileged that we can afford to take our kids to a lot of what thankfully like exists here in New York City. And so we've been to more Liberty games than we've been to Knicks games, although we've also been to Knicks games, and I think one Nets game. And we watch, again, an obsessive amount of Olympics. And we also just like, we have pretty strict like screen time limits, but we basically let our kids watch like infinite sports. And so I think that is great because it not only means like oftentimes we're watching both the basketball tournaments. I now don't want to call it the women's NCAA. I don't know. You're going to have to advise the men and the women's. I guess that's what I do. The men and the women's real-time problem solving, like NCAA tournaments. And we watch, we watch the men and the women's World Cup. And it is true. It was like when you had pink hair. And then we would be watching the men, and my kids would be like, where's the lady with the pink hair? And like, why are the men not as good as the women? And I was like, well, children. And so I think it's the big moments of making the effort to, if you are able to, if you live in a place and you have the resources to be able to go out and real time, be fans and spectators and supporters of women and men's teams alike. But at least for us, it's also because we live in the heart of New York City, like we're, not near, like we watch the Masters, like we're not near the Masters, but I'm like, if my 8-year-old loves golf. My dad is thrilled because I did not love golf. My daughter, who's 10, did not love golf. My husband is not a golfer, and my 5-year-old also seems to not be really into golf. My dad, who is obsessed with golf, is like, there's one. I'm like, I know. It's the greatest thing I've ever done for you. And
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And so, I ramble, but it's the sense of like, when things are on, if our kids are curious, and we are like very into soccer and basketball and football, but really just the Eagles, like we watch a lot of sports. And we just watch a lot of sports. I don't think our kids think of it as like, oh, now it's like the quoted time for like women's sports, because that's not organic or authentic to us. And I think it also helps in total like candor, like that my sons have an older sister. And as important as I am in like the hierarchy of the family to them, like their older sister is like the sun, the moon, and the stars. And she loves watching women's sports. And so I think as much as we take them to things and they're big fans of yours, I think they also just are so excited to be sharing something with their sister that she clearly feels so connected to and inspired by and elevated kind of through.
I think we should move on to the games. I think it's game time.
You have one more question.
Yeah, but I think it's game time. Really? Yeah.
Okay, it's game time.
Yeah.
All right,
Waste
well,
time.
we do play games on this
Okay,
show.
as
so
long
we
as you
could
don't
not-
actually make me like shoot a basketball. 'Cause I
Nah.
can't
No,
do that.
no.
There's just word games.
Not those kind of games.
We like to play a game, bench, start, cut.
Okay.
So we'll give you 3 things.
Okay.
And you will say which one you would start. These are basketball references, which means like they're on your team, they're playing a lot of minutes. The one you'd bench. So they're still on your team, but they're on the side.
Okay.
Or the one you're cutting.
Oh gosh.
So this one's out. This game gets,
Gosh.
I try to make it hard.
I'm already
but
having like displaced embarrassment and concern.
No, I promise. These
Okay.
ones are easy. We're going to set you up nice. But I do want to ask real quick, what are your sports allegiances? Like, what are your teams?
Yeah,
I'm
so-
curious.
Well, I will say, when you were talking about Stanford, I thought where you were maybe going was like going to some of the sporting events, because actually like Stanford, we always had great like fandom around basketball, both men and women's basketball. But I grew up as like a kid in Arkansas. My dad was governor of Arkansas. When your dad's governor of Arkansas, at least in the 80s, like you went to lots of Arkansas sporting events. So I went to lots of Arkansas like football events and track events, because we had a really good track team in the 80s. And I think still today, Arkansas has a really good track team, and basketball. Admittedly, mainly men's, but sometimes women's basketball. But I say that because it was like the height of like the SEC insanity around sports. And I got to Stanford and everyone was like, so we'll go to the football game, but like maybe we'll just show up at halftime. And I was like, wait, it's not like a 2-day event. We don't all get like dressed up in colors and like work on our cheers. And we're not going to be like competing with other people in the stadium. I'm like, who has the best cheer? And people are like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, I'm not in Arkansas anymore. So I still feel real allegiance to Arkansas, though, because like that's where I grew up, and I do feel allegiance to Stanford. We root for the Philadelphia Eagles because my husband is from Philadelphia, and when we were engaged, he was like, well, obviously our kids have to support Philadelphia teams, and I was like, we live in New York City. I was like, you have to pick one team. Pick the Eagles. It's nice though. Like we go to like 2 or 3 Eagle games a year. We went to the one this year in January where it snowed and we were sitting outside and it snowed just so much. And I was saying to my children, I was like, isn't this great? And my kids were like, oh my gosh, can we go inside? And I was like, this is what it means to be a real sports fan. And then we support the New York teams. We support like the Liberty and the Knicks. And admittedly, we've been to both Mets and Yankees games.
Okay, this is a perfect setup
All right.
for bench start cut.
Okay.
I'm glad we have that out there. All right, we're gonna actually start with places you've lived.
Okay.
So obviously you grew up in Little Rock, as you just said.
Oh my
Kind of like
gosh,
grew
that's
up
gonna be
again
so hard.
in DC.
Yeah, okay.
And then now you're living and raising humans, so they're growing up
Yeah.
in New York.
Yeah.
So DC, Little Rock, New York. Bench start cut.
Well, I got to start in New York. I love living in New York City.
Smart answer.
I'm so
You're a
grateful.
Philadelphia Eagle fan, you had to say that.
Well, I know. It's like the knives are coming out, metaphorical and maybe not, given feelings in this city about Philadelphia fans. New York. I love living in New York. I came to New York like 21 years ago and never want to leave. At the moment, I love DC, but I feel like this has to be the caveat. Like I would have to cut DC because I don't want to be in DC right now.
We got to cut her.
Fair, she's out.
And Little Rock can be on the bench. Great place to like be as a little kid.
Yeah, great.
Good one,
All right.
good one.
This next one is schools you attended.
Okay.
And you can base it on anything you want.
All right.
Just the experience, maybe the sports teams. Did Oxford have sports teams?
Yes. Ish.
Okay.
Rowing.
No, that counts.
Rowing.
That's in the Olympics. It counts. Yeah. Okay. Stanford.
Okay.
Sidwell Friends. Sidwell Friends?
Yeah,
Sidwell Friends. Oxford. Bench start cut.
Oh, that's really hard. Well, I think I would cut Sidwell, even though it was wonderful, because I think Stanford and Oxford made me more of who I am today, candidly. And I couldn't imagine my life without either of those. My Stanford roommate and best friend from college died 2.5 weeks ago after a 4-year battle with breast cancer. Me too, thank you. It's been a very sad time. And I couldn't imagine my life without her. So I would have to start Stanford and bench Oxford, and with apologies, cut Sidwell. Yeah.
Great
That's a good
answer. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to cut high school.
You cut high school?
Yeah, I cut high school.
Because you were like in your weird phase?
I don't know. I wasn't everyone in high school. It's just like
No.
high school's weird.
That was like middle
I
school.
liked high school. I have really good friends from high school, but I feel like in college and grad school was when I was like, oh, just trying out different parts of myself. And like, I'm like, that's really the building blocks of who I am today.
Absolutely. Well, we want to send our best wishes to your family and sorry for your loss. Everybody, that is our show. We want to also just thank you for being a guest. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you,
So
Sue.
insightful,
Thank you, Megan.
so thoughtful. Chelsea Clinton, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is it for A Touch More Live.
Thanks to Degree for supporting A Touch More. On your busiest days, smelling nice can give you the confidence you need to keep going at full steam. Degree Whole Body Deodorant Spray is designed to keep away odor while feeling light on your skin, so you can feel light on your feet. It provides 72-hour odor control, it's dermatologist tested and aluminum free. From back-to-back meetings to working up a sweat on the court, Degree Whole Body Deodorant Spray can keep you smelling fresh almost everywhere. Buy the new Degree Whole Body Deo for under $10 at Walmart now.